coming this evening. For those of you that don't know me, I see a lot of familiar faces, some new. My name is Lathan Ferguson, and I'm the Midwest Regional Director for INROADS, I'm based out of here in St. Louis. I cover the Midwest territory. And welcome to INROADS' third annual National Founders Day. So we've already given a round of applause, but I just want you to take a moment and think about and reflect on the video and what you heard from the youth and the next generation of INROADS students. What you just saw was just a fragment of the great work that INROADS is and has been doing for over 4 decades. When Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. spoke of a dream over 50 years ago at the March on Washington, he issued a very powerful call for real change, a call that resonates still today. Among the hundreds of thousands of people there that day, one person, Father Frank C. Carr, heard that clarion call, and 7 years later, he answered it. In 1970, Mr. Carr founded INROADS to right what he saw as a wrong: corporate America's lack of ethnic diversity. Now, over 40 years later, INROADS places nearly 2,000 interns at over 200 sponsoring corporations each year. In a recent conversation I had with an INROADS alum who's actually here, Ms. Trina Claggett, she stated to me when I first took the position, she said, she was delighted about her experience here at INROADS. She described her experience as the best professional development training she's ever received. Due to that, in the Midwest region today, we are proud to announce the availability of the next generation of talented potential INROADS candidates. I've spoken with some of you throughout the reception and others I hope to speak to after the program, but in the next part of the dessert reception to talk about the students that we still have available that are still seeking internship and opportunities for the summer, beginning the summer, spanning the overall year. But tonight, the reason why we're here, in the name of Father Frank C. Carr, INROADS honors and thanks many who, through the years, have helped make his dream a reality. So to help us with that, please put your hands together and help me welcome our MC for the evening. And Valerie's going to kill me because I'm going off script, but we are gifted to have the MC that we have this evening. I have had a chance to hear her speak and go to several events that she's doing, as well as I've had a chance to know her personally, and she's one of the most sincere, heartfelt speaking people that you'll ever hear. So with that, please join me in welcoming news anchor for KMOX Radio and St. Louis Perennial, Ms. Carol Daniels.
Well, to be honest, what he means by personally is his daughter has come and taken a tour of KMOX Radio, and I met her and I took out my cell phone and I showed her a picture of my son. And they are the same age, and we have found out in the last month they are both going to Mizzou. And so all we can do now is pray, Lathan. All we can do now is pray, because I think I would make a good mother-in-law. You think so? You think so? Well, it is such a joy to be here this evening because we are doing what we should be doing. We are doing exactly what we should be doing. And what we should be doing is encouraging others and changing lives. INROADS Visionary Leadership Award honorees that we are going to present to you this evening come from many different walks of life, and they serve INROADS in a variety of ways. Let me say that we are helping young people crack the corporate code. And we often say that, when I got into the game, they changed the rules on me. Well, we are helping young people crack the corporate code. We're giving them opportunities to do things that very few people this age can, no matter what their circumstances. We are encouraging dreams, then showing them how to make them come true. I'm so honored to be with you this evening to help you thank those that have been so instrumental in making the dreams of so many come true. We have managing directors at INROADS, and they have one unified mission, and I believe I've heard it 5 times tonight: transform lives and careers in this community and change corporate America, because as mighty as this nation is, we need to change corporate America. They have guided INROADS, our managing directors have. They have guided the success of INROADS in the St. Louis community from 1976 through 2000. The success of their collective efforts is evident in the Legacy Award recipients you're going to meet later in this program. So to the individuals that we honor with the Visionary Leadership Award, we want to say thank you for your commitment to transforming lives. God bless you, and job well done. And now for our first honoree. Attorney Judith A. Elamine is an assistant corporate counsel in the Finance and Economic Development for the City of Chicago's Department of Law. Prior to earning a law degree and a certificate of health law from St. Louis University, she served as managing director of INROADS St. Louis Incorporated and operations manager of INROADS Northeast Ohio, and two of her children are INROADS St. Louis alumni. Please welcome and honor Attorney Judith A. Elamine.
Well, I'm deeply honored by this recognition, but I do not wear this honor by myself. I wear it with others in the INROADS community who collectively achieve the results that you honor me tonight, because vision without implementation is an illusion. First, let me celebrate the INROADS community who share Frank Carr's vision that our young people's dreams can become realities. This shared vision is evident from the accomplishments of INROADS alum, some of whom are in the audience tonight. One of the things that I have observed is while I supported others' dreams, I also learned a great deal myself. I found that the students who were able to transform their lives all demonstrated two qualities: perseverance and career focus. Second, I'd like to acknowledge my three children who were patient with me during the INROADS years, but who also benefited from the INROADS experience. As you've already heard, two of my children are INROADS alum, and one of my children is a high school teacher. My youngest son, Malik, an INROADS alum, is in the audience tonight. He so values the INROADS experience and the honor I'm receiving tonight that he's traveled all the way from Los Angeles, California, to be here tonight. Now I'd like to identify the specific members of the INROADS community. It includes INROADS staff, corporate sponsors, board members, high school and college educators, professionals, and community leaders, all who recognize the potential in INROADers, and they work diligently with INROADS throughout the years. There's a final impression I'd like to leave with you about one of the INROADS board members, Gwen Moore. She helped me turn my visions to reality. Gwen taught me a number of things. To show you how long ago this began, one of her first lessons was to show me how to translate a spreadsheet from paper to a computer. So you know how long ago that was. She also taught me how to navigate career and financial waters as she helped others swim toward success. Gwen served as a coach and a mentor, and that's part of why it's been important to me to pass this forward by supporting students and staff. One of the young women I mentor is with us tonight, Kaya Weeks. Please raise your hand. Kaya has just finished her freshman year in college and continues to make me proud. It is important that this cycle of service and support continue with each generation. Again, I thank you for this honor, and I share it with the INROADS community.
Congratulations again, Judith. And her son, he did not wave wildly, but could you please, Mr. California, thank you very much. Dr. Flint W. Fowler, our next honoree, has served as president of the Boys and Girls Club of Greater St. Louis since 1996. He also serves on the boards of the St. Louis Sports Commission, NCC St. Louis, the Shakespeare Festival of St. Louis, and the Mayor's Commission on Children and Families. Formerly, he served as the managing director of INROADS St. Louis. Please help us honor Dr. Flint W. Fowler.
Good evening. It's certainly an honor and a pleasure to be here and to take part in all the wonderful things that is INROADS. I look back with fond memories of my INROADS experience. I remember by the first day at work, someone said, "This is the hardest that you'll ever work in your life." And they were right. I'm so glad I'm working at the Boys and Girls Clubs now. I remember my interview out at Emerson with Mr. Dixon and a couple of the board members, and they asked, why is it that you want to work for INROADS? And my brother had been an INROADS intern, and his now wife was an intern. They both worked at Ernst and Winnie, or Ernst and Ernst, whatever it was back then. I said, anything that can help my brother do better is worth being a part of. So he's doing very well. He's working in banking, and his wife ended up with a degree in accounting, and she's doing very well. As a matter of fact, their daughter finished law school last week. So INROADS plants a seed that people can grow and prosper from. And then I realized that once you grow and prosper, you have the responsibility of planting seeds as well, and they have certainly done that. I think I also have to let you know that what seemed the most important to me were the relationships that were formed, whether they were with other staff members, with the national staff, with managing directors across the country, with the interns, certainly, but I had a fond experience with our parents. We had INROADS Parents Association that was extremely strong. And I watched the investment that they made in their children. And I learned a lot from that. As a matter of fact, I think we had one of our 3 children sometime when I was at INROADS. And the parents showed up at my house with gifts. No money, but gifts. And it was extremely impressive. And I recognized the value of not only having and maintaining a relationship, but building and feeding into that relationship. And still today, there are a number of alums that are here that were part of the INROADS experience when I was around that, and I maintain a contact and relationship with. So INROADS is transformational from a corporate standpoint, but it's also transformational from a life standpoint, if that makes sense. And I'm so appreciative of the opportunity. I really am grateful for the chance to come back and reconnect. Thank you.
Our next honoree is Lawrence W. Hamilton. Mr. Hamilton is an executive coach and adjunct faculty member with the Center for Creative Leadership affiliate at Eckerd College in St. Petersburg, Florida. Lawrence's INROADS service has encompassed president of the INROADS Tampa Bay Policy Board of Directors, local representative at the INROADS National Council, and a member of the INROADS National Board of Directors. Please join me in recognizing Lawrence W. Hamilton. Let's take a quick photo. You might as well get in this, you right here.
Good evening. And thank you for the honor of this evening. They ask us to keep our remarks to 2 to 3 minutes, and of course, Judy's already broken that, and Judy always breaks rules whenever, for those of us who know her. I became associated with INROADS back in the early 80s when I met Reginald Dixon for dinner in Cincinnati, Ohio. I was interviewing for the INROADS Managing Director position in Cincinnati. I was not hired. And I'm still mad. You can tell I'm still hurt. But I received a call about a month later from Lincoln Scott, who later would be my boss, and I would move to St. Louis, where I began my INROADS journey. INROADS has left really two primary thoughts in my mind. First and foremost, from a very broad perspective, many of us attempt to try to be involved with organizations and activities that are game-changing, that are transformational. Well, INROADS is simply that. On my first or second week of employment, Father Frank Carr, he wasn't a father then, came to visit the INROADS St. Louis office and asked me to ride with him, asked to ride with me during a sales call. And Lincoln wasn't in the office, and Reggie wasn't in the office. And I said, well, sure, come on, ride with me. Confident, young, and kind of dumb. And so I rode with Frank Carr and for half a day, and we came back, and in the evening, Reggie came in and said, how was your day? I said, Reggie, I rode with Frank Carr today. And he had this look on his face. He said, well, you know, if you didn't do well, you won't be back tomorrow. So I took my phone off the hook for fear that Lincoln would call me. But luckily, I was able to stay beyond that period and had a wonderful experience with INROADS that lasted over 25 years. I was president of my local board in Tampa Bay. I was a member of the INROADS Board of Directors, chairman of the Compensation Committee of the National Board of Directors, and my love and care for INROADS went on and on and on. The second thought is that while we speak a lot about the students, INROADS staff members, from Reggie Dixon to Lincoln Scott to Pat Sherrod to Willie Lester to Ruby Williams to Jarrett Whitaco, INROADS staff is the most talented group of people I've ever been associated with. They were bright, they were committed, and they changed lives every day. So while we celebrate the students, we also should celebrate the staff. So on behalf of those who are here, give them a round of applause, please. So on behalf of those who are here and those who are not, I say thank you, thank you, thank you.
Truth be told, it's actually supposed to be 1 minute, but I'm not putting that out there so that our next honoree will in any way try to stick to the program. It's okay. It's okay. Our next honoree's engineering career path changed when she was recruited for the role of managing director for the St. Louis affiliate of INROADS. Jada D. Jenkins-Reese is now the director of human resources operations at BJC Healthcare. Her honors are numerous, but they include Missouri S&T Women in Engineering and Science Hall of Fame and Academy of Aerospace and Mechanical Engineering. Please help us honor Jada D. Jenkins-Reese.
Thank you. Okay, no jokes. I am standing, so people always want to know. And I have on heels, exactly. So thank you, whoever placed this just right. So at least I'm not peeking over the top. You know, when I got the call from Val that INROADS wanted to honor me, I thought, girl, please, really? I don't really need an honor. It was my pleasure. And I'm going to try to get through my 1 minute without getting too emotional. But, you know, Lincoln Scott, all these guys and ladies were my managing director with the exception of Flint. So from Reggie to Lincoln to Lawrence to Judy. And I remember being a young girl when I heard we got a lady managing director, and it was very exciting. But Lincoln Scott is like my other father. He was a young other father, but nevertheless, I can remember being recruited by Willie Lester in 1976. And I was in high school, and my father was a stationary engineer, and they said, hey, you're good at math and science. This organization called INROADS is here. They want to talk to you about a career in engineering. And I'm thinking, I do not want to be in a boiler room, so that is not going to work. And so I went because I was a good girl, and I spoke with them, and they said, well, they make a lot of money. And I said, okay, well, where do I sign up for that? And so I went forward. I was in pre-college. It felt like forever because back then you started as a rising sophomore. And life went on, and Lincoln became managing director because Reggie moved up and Lincoln moved up. And I remember being at Rolla my third year, and I thought, I do not want to wear a pocket protector and glasses. This is not really for me. And my mother called Lincoln, and oh boy. Lincoln then got on the horn and said, you're staying in engineering school. I'm like, but I think I belong at Mizzou because they were having more fun. He said, no, you're going to stay in engineering school and you're going to finish. And then if you want to do something else, you can do that later. So long story short, I owe really my career to Lincoln because it was he that formed the path. And every time I had a need, I'd just call him. You know, my kids call him Uncle Lincoln because we stayed in touch. And I can remember being an adult, and I would always say, Mr. Scott. And he said, Lincoln. And I said, Mr. Scott. And we get to corporate America at the same company, and he said, don't call me Mr. Scott. And I said, okay, Lincoln Scott. But Lincoln has always been part of my life. And it's just an amazing feeling to be a managing director for INROADS after you watched the likes of the All-Stars. And you guys just don't know what a privilege and an honor it has been. And so I don't need any thank you. I owe a lot of thanks. And even the kids, as I call them, my daughter's in the audience, and I can remember her saying, Mom, do you mean us or your INROADS kids? When I would say, oh, my kids, I'm going to do this. And she's like, is that us or is that them? Who are you talking about? And so to work with these young people in corporate America and watch their growth, it's just amazing. So my buddy Harlan is here, and we were in INROADS together, and he called last night and said, you know I'm going to be in St. Louis tomorrow. I said, oh, really? What are you coming to St. Louis for? And he said, dude, you're getting an award. And I'm like, yeah. He said, well, you know I'm going to be there. And I'm like, really? And Ivo, this is my last story. It's my moment of fame here. But I met Ivo at Father Carr's memorial service. And I spotted him, and we connected. And I went to him and said, you know, have you ever thought about moving to St. Louis? And anybody that knows Ivo knows. He said, why would I do that? And I thought, well, this is going to take some work. So I called him later when we all got back, and 3 weeks later, he moved to St. Louis. And we rocked. I mean, St. Louis was never the same. So my first meeting, the kids at INROADS, they get there, and they're like, where's Flint? Where's Flint? Because everybody loved Flint. I'm like, oh, boy, this is going to be interesting. And so I told the kids, well, I'm not Flint, but I'm probably your worst nightmare because I am an alum. And we brought back the love and dedication to INROADS. And so I just want to say from the bottom of my toes, thank you so much. Thank you to Reggie, to Lincoln, to Lawrence, to Judy for taking such good care of me, and Flint even helped as well. So thank you very much. Thank you.
And now for our final Visionary Leadership Award honoree. It is Lincoln C. Scott, Vice President of Human Resources at Southeast Health. As former Regional Vice President of INROADS St. Louis, Lincoln managed 4 offices in the Midwest and Southwest, and as we know, changed lives. Please welcome Lincoln C. Scott.
since we're in the interest of time, I will say everybody said it already, if that would be of some help. Jada, thank you for your remarks, and those who have already been here. I don't feel that I should take this award, but I think I should give it to some other people who, shoulders that I stood on, Brother Frank Carr, and those of you who had the opportunity to meet him could not help but be changed by what Frank did and what he said to people. And I had the honor of opening up cities with Frank. And they were interesting because we had to share the same room. We saved money, and so you didn't have your own room. And so I spent a lot of time one-on-one with Frank, and his mission and vision that he shared with us made all of us during that time period feel that we were on a mission. As we talked with the parents, we used to go to the parents' homes and meet with the young people in their homes and with their parents. And I remember opportunities where we used to have national training institutes. Any of you remember those? And we'd have to take a whole busload of students from St. Louis and Houston and Dallas and Cincinnati to whatever location that we were going to have that training. And I remember we were at the bus to leave, and some parents came up to me and said, my daughter's only going because of you, and you're responsible for her. I said, oh, Lord, how am I going to keep these boys away from this girl and come back? But what that says is, for me, is that the greatest joys that I had were the students, and the greatest miseries that I had were the students. We put in a lot of time with students, and they would grow and flourish, and then they would do the dumbest thing. I had a young lady who I had worked very hard at Anheuser-Busch to get her placed. And Jerry Thayer, who was chair of the St. Louis board, and he was treasurer of Anheuser-Busch, got his directors to open up a position for this young lady, Karen, who had interned there. And Karen worked 1 week and quit. And Jerry said, what am I supposed to tell my directors? And I said, tell them what you tell them all the time. And he said, okay. I said, does this mean no more students? He said, no, Lincoln, you can bring me another one. And so you have those kinds of joys and miseries. We had that person who made it, and she's doing well, but fighting the battle after that. But what I do want to say one thing is I'd like to thank all of the wives and the husbands who allowed the people who work for INROADS to give the kind of time that they had to give because they were away from home. And especially, I thank my wife, Janice, who stuck with me when she should have dumped me through all of that. And after 44 years, as of last Friday, I got the 44 right. I like to thank her. And INROADS does mean a lot. It was a mission, it's a journey, and I really enjoyed every one of those young people. And yes, daughter Jada, I heard that you were my favorite. I've heard that more than once tonight. And Carol, now that I work in Southeast from your hometown, we thank you for what you've done for INROADS also. Thank you so much.
Well, let's hear it for 44 years. Let's hear it for 44 years. Oh, y'all clapping like you're scared. Don't be scared of 44 years. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we would love for you to welcome to the stage someone who can tell us firsthand just what the mission means to those it serves. Please welcome Lakeisha Gilcrease, INROADS class of 2013, an alum currently working with Target Corporation. She will share her personal INROADS experience. Please welcome Lakeisha.
Hello, everyone. It's been an interesting journey with INROADS. I've had 3 different INROADS internships while I've been an intern. So I first started off with American Eagle Outfitters as an assistant manager, and then they discontinued their internship program. And then I got an internship with Peabody Energy, which was a great experience as well. And I learned a lot from that internship working in HR. And there's some great individuals at that company that I was able to meet and to connect with. And I met one, saw one today, which was great catching up with him as well. I feel like INROADS definitely provided me those 2 different opportunities to help with my development and to just continue to help me out with when one internship didn't work out. They were able to help me find another internship and really work with me to continue my development as a student and as a future business leader. My last internship was with Target Corporations, which was last summer at the Fenton store. And it was an amazing opportunity that I was afforded as well, because most internship programs are 2 consecutive summers, and I got the opportunity to be an intern for 1 summer, and then after that summer I was offered a position with Target, which I accepted. So it's been a long journey, and it's been a great journey for me, just development wise. I've gotten so much out of INROADS. Just working with Tina Grimes, she is an amazing woman, and she's someone that I admire a lot. She has so much going on with just INROADS and her passion for the students and making sure that they're taken care of. I feel like she's definitely taking care of me over these last year. She's done such a great job with just keeping up and just saying, hey, how are you doing? Even before this event, she texted me and she was just like, hey, haven't talked to you. How are you doing? And those are the kind of connections that INROADS provides their interns. And I'm just so lucky to have been a part of INROADS and to be able to make the connections that I've made over the years, even with the other interns. Their motivation to just keep going. We're all different peers and we're all at different levels, but to see each other working hard for our passions, for our dreams, it definitely makes it worthwhile. And to know that we're not just in it by ourselves, but we have our peers and we're all working together, for whatever goals that we have in mind. And I feel like I said, INROADS has definitely afforded me that opportunity to have such mentors like Miss Grimes and other peers that have been around me to just help me and with my development. So it's been a great experience. I don't want to take up too much of your time. It's been an awesome journey with INROADS, and I will continue to be a part of INROADS with volunteer events, of either speaking events. I definitely this is something that is not just, it was just a one thing in college where I got an internship. It's definitely a lifelong commitment that I'm definitely committed to being a part of.
Thank you so much, Lakeisha. And to have had 3 internships, 3 great companies, and to have gotten a job after one summer, 1 internship says something about you, which in turn says something about INROADS. So congratulations to you. The Legacy Award is given to alumni whose professional success both exemplifies and honors the INROADS legacy. Tonight, we are pleased to award it to 3 individuals. In a career spanning more than 30 years, Randy Sanderson has been a controller, a CAO, and a CFO. As co-managing director of the SB 360 Group, he uses that finance and accounting experience to provide CFO services to small companies and organizations that can't afford full-time CFOs. His organization is also zealously involved in turning around underperforming businesses in the community. Please join me in honoring Randy Sanderson. Randy?
Thank you very much. Tonight, I humbly accept the INROADS Legacy Award. But when I think of INROADS, the true legacy belongs to Father Frank C. Carr. On tonight, we celebrate again Frank's dream. If he were alive today, he'd be proud of the thousands of youth that have been touched by the INROADS mission. However, he'd be more excited and touched by the lifelong relationships that have been developed among the honorees tonight. I thank God for Frank having the vision to start INROADS, and for Frank believing there was as much talent in the ghettos and barrios of America as anywhere else. To the current leadership of INROADS, I challenge you to keep Frank's legacy alive. For the need for INROADS is as great today as it was in 1970. I thank Reginald Dixon for believing in a C+ student at Beaumont High School that was born in a small 2-room apartment without running hot water. This snot-nosed kid grew up in North St. Louis and made the honor roll his last semester of high school. This C+ student went on to become chief accounting officer at a $5 billion retail. Last but not least, I'd like to thank my lovely wife, Tony, for putting up with this accountant for 29 years, 361 days, 4 hours, 15 minutes, and 23 seconds.
Work it, brother, work it.
Being back at Ameren or UE is also extra special to me and my family. As you heard earlier, the first INROADS office was here, and my dad worked here as a janitor for 20 years and never missed one day of work. My dad's work ethic has embodied my entire professional career. When I joined INROADS some 40 years ago, I was young and ready to embark upon life's journey. My INROADS experience gave me the guidance and the direction to set out fearless and carefree in my quest to be the best that I could be. As I approach the young age of 60, I realize I have experienced an ample portion of what life has to offer. My life has been filled with success, love, joy, as well as disappointment, fear, sadness, and failure. But I recognize that it doesn't matter what I've accomplished in my 59+ years. What matters is the lasting impact and legacy I leave for generations to come and the community at large. That is why I established an endowed scholarship in my name at my alma mater, and I continue to give back to the community and my church. And sometimes I have to remind my family and friends that for whom much is given, much is required. And each day above ground is a reminder that life is short. Enjoy each day as if it was your last, because if it was your last, yesterday is history. Tomorrow's not promised. That is why it is called the present, because it is a gift from God. Thank you very much.
We have our next honoree, who is president of Urban Strategies, a not-for-profit corporation that helps developers transform distressed urban core communities into vibrant, safe residential neighborhoods with new housing, good schools, strong institutions, and a range of human service supports. Please welcome Sandra M. Moore.
Well, I'll just start by saying thank you. I'll go to, I took very seriously that this should be short and sweet, but these guys are making it really difficult. Been quite busy. Rebuilding urban America is tough, so I missed my phone call with Valerie. So tonight when I came in, I said, Valerie, what is it you would like me to do? And she said, Sandy, just tell your story. So because I'm that ripe old age of 59, heading into 60, that could take a long time. Let me give you a shortened version with regard to INROADS. INROADS was a powerful tool for me. I started my career in INROADS in I think it was the summer of 1972, which is the year that I graduated high school. I honestly wish that I could remember how I got attached to INROADS, but the gray hair is real and I don't remember. I do remember Reginald Dixon. Reginald Dixon has continued to be a force and a friend in my life for the last 40 years. But I was assigned to First National Bank. I decided that I wanted to go into banking, but that wasn't really true. I just wanted to be in INROADS. And I knew that I needed to say that I was interested in business in order to be into INROADS. In fact, I think Reginald hinted that to me so that I'd have the right things to say. The young woman who spoke and talked about wearing not wanting to wear eyeglasses, and Jada, and have a pen protector, just like tapped into my mind. I spent 4 summers at First National Bank as a credit analyst trainee. Those of you who know me now know that I'm as far away from banking as anything you could ever be. But let me tell you, and I have to say that at the end of 4 years, they offered me a job, and I didn't take it. Because by that time, I had decided I'm going to law school, because I don't want to wear eyeglasses and work with men for the rest of my life. For 4 years, I was the only woman in the credit analyst department at First National Bank. I was the only African American. But every day I walked into that bank, and the people who cleaned and the people who swept were so proud of me. They had no clue what I was doing, but they knew I was on the second floor with Kedgie Barksdale, who was the president of the bank and a mover and shaker in the city of St. Louis. And they knew that I strolled in there with the business suit that I copied off of the women that I saw, because I didn't have any idea, 72 girls weren't wearing business suits, we were wearing high pants. But I figured it out. Everybody else was wearing a business suit, and I got on one too. And there was such enormous pride. So the first thing that INROADS did for me was to open the door. And the second thing that INROADS did for me was to create a standard of excellence that I learned at 19 years old, and it has driven my career for the rest of my life. And I said to someone today that the thing about INROADS that I find so distinguishing is that INROADS told me I was ready. Reginald Dixon didn't tell me he was mentoring me or getting me ready. He said, you are ready, and you better perform at the highest standard. That is the expectation. And setting that high expectation is what I lived up to. There were others in my life who said it, but that was set for me in the workplace and has driven my career moving forward. I want to tell you why I didn't take the job, because I have to tell you what INROADS can do for you when things don't always work out. I didn't take the job because I developed a friendship with a woman in the HR department at First National Bank. And while every week I met with the president of the bank, he would come out to the floor. He knew what it was like for me to be a young African-American woman in a male-dominated field. Banking is still heavily male-dominated. Think about what it was 40 years ago. So he would come out and bring me into his office to speak to me every week. And it was to validate the fact that it was important for me being there. And it was probably because Reggie and INROADS was calling him. But at the end of 4 years, I'd made a friend in the HR department, and they made me a job offer. And they really tried to woo me because I decided to go to law school. And Reggie was like, Sandy, you're not doing this to me. And I'm like, yes, Reggie, I'm going to law school. And my friend said to me, Sandy, they're offering you $4,000 a year less than the guys you've been working with every summer. And I said, what do you mean? She said, well, I know what your salary is, and I know what their salary is, and it's $4,000 a year less. I'm like, This is why being here tonight is so important for me, 50 years later when we're celebrating what civil rights transactions have taken place. And I said, okay. I went home to talk to my daddy. My daddy was born in 1912 and had an 8th grade education in a one-room schoolhouse. And he said one thing to me. He said, baby, if you start off behind, you'll always be behind. And so I told him, no thank you. And I went to law school. The $12,000 a year that they were offering to pay me was more money than my father had ever made in his life on one job. But he was smart enough to know if I started off behind, I'd always be behind. Reggie said to me, you'll be fine. I went to law school. Life's been okay. And Kedgie Barksdale and every one of the senior execs in St. Louis, he kept the door open for me. And over and over and over again, I was able to go back, and nobody ever said she didn't take the job at INROADS. They just said she's an INROADer, and she was good. And that's why INROADS is good. Thank you.
See why we love her. She's amazing. And time for our third Legacy Award honoree. Managing partner for D&D Concessions LLC, a partner in JHL Concessions LLC, and principal of TriTech Incorporated, which staffs 300+ people covering every neighborhood in the St. Louis metropolitan area and including all food services at St. Louis Lambert International Airport. He is past Secretary-Treasurer of the Missouri Housing Development Commission and alumni rep of INROADS St. Louis Board of Directors. He is none other than Darrell T. Jones.
Thank you. Well, thank you. I'm honored and humbled to be here tonight. This is truly something. But I do have to thank those persons out there on the shoulders I stand to make everything happen, especially my lovely wife of 28 years, Phila. Thank you, baby. I'm not like Randy. I don't know the days, the minutes, and the hours as a true accountant, but we're close. We're working on 29 years. I also like to thank my fellow alums in INROADS who have encouraged me and inspired me along the way to do what I'm doing today. The alums like Randy Sanderson, Eileen Wolfington, Barbara, everyone, I'd like to thank you. Also like to thank probably the greatest fraternity in the world, the members of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, for their encouragement and inspiration. The managing director, Latham Ferguson. So thank you all. When I first got the call that I was going to receive the Legacy Award, what went through my mind was the nominating committee probably said, and I'm just thinking this guy, this is an old guy, he probably deserves it. We better do something now before it's too late. And besides, this guy probably doesn't know the difference between twerking, and tweeting. They were so right. It was 2 months ago that I found out what twerking was. It's a dance, and I thought it was the future tense of tweeting. So yes, I'm truly blessed to be standing here with everyone here tonight. My fondest memories, and all my fellow alums back in the early days, Sandra, Randy, we remember taking those trips to Lake Forest, Illinois, where we had our summer retreat. And if any of you ever, and I know a lot of us had the experience of watching Reginald and Father Frank Carr, or Frank Carr as we called him, walk and have those afternoon or day chats on the campus, you saw something there that was truly unique. You saw in Frank Carr that he was on a mission, a true mission to help minority students throughout the country. You saw in Reginald a young man that was absorbing all of this information and truly had its mind set on taking this to new heights. Last year when we honored Reginald, and I call him Mr. Enroader, I talked about the time when I first met Reginald. Unlike a lot of you, Reginald came to my house, North St. Louis, and the interview was on our family front porch. And Reginald offered me a chance to be with a new organization, a new program called INROADS St. Louis, and said, I think you would be good for this program. And I was referred by a young lady named Paula Green. So Reginald and I talked for roughly 15, 20 minutes. And he told me about all the opportunities. And at the time, I had a job. I had a summer job. I was working at the zoo, making $1.10 an hour. All the money in the world. So it went in one ear and out the other as a teenager. And when I went in to discuss this with my parents, my dad asked me, was I stuck on stupid? The opportunity to work for a corporation in St. Louis to improve my work ethics, my skill set, and everything else. The next day I called Reginald and said, hey, I'll take that offer. And it's real funny now when I sit back and look at it, my career has taken a full circle. The company I worked for as an intern was Wetterall Foods. And lo and behold, I'm in the food business now 40 years later, operating all the food service at Lambert Airport in St. Louis and also the convention center at downtown St. Louis. If it hadn't been for Reginald, if it hadn't been for Frank Carr, and Reginald taking it to a new level, none of us would probably be here today to talk about how our lives have changed. And to you, Mr. Enroader, Reginald, I want to say thank you. I'm happy to be here tonight because I'm here and I could cherish in the memories of INROADS past, but I also am living the dreams of INROADS future. To everyone here, thank you, and I'm very honored for this award. Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, our speaker is not only an exemplary leader, but has also demonstrated impeccable commitment to the INROADS mission of preparing talented, underserved youth for a bright future in corporate and community leadership. At United Technologies, Curtis St. Brice manages intellectual property matters in the technology areas of heat transfers, air acoustics, and vibration. In the community, he is the co-founder and past director of the Hartford Scholastic Challenge High School Academic and Debate Competition. And he serves on the boards of Mount Olive Child Development Center. He is last year's 2013 Legacy Award recipient and this year's honorary chair and keynote speaker. Please give a warm welcome to Mr. Curtis St. Bryce.
Thank you so much, and good evening. I've been told to try and make up some time. I don't know if that will happen, but at any point in time, if you're bored, just raise your hands to the heavens, and that'll give me a key to go to page 7. I am reminded of a story told by the late Dr. Shadrach Meshach Lockridge, pastor of Calvary Baptist Church, a prominent African-American congregation in San Diego, California. You know, I'm like the fellow who was sent to give a death message. A man was killed in an automobile accident, and the witnesses at the scene knew his wife and knew that she was already sick and of the nervous type. And so whoever was responsible for delivering that bad news was going to have to do it tactfully and diplomatically. They were going to have to ease it over to her, as so to not unduly upset her. They chose this man and told him what he had to do. They gave him the address. And when this man went to the address and rang the doorbell, the lady came to the door and he said, "Are you widower Smith?" She said, "My name is Smith, but I'm not a widower." He said, "That's what you think." Well, now whoever thought that I could do justice to an occasion like this, that's what you think. I thank you for this evening and inviting me here as the honorary chair in celebration and commemoration of this third annual Founders Day event. The event theme, 50 years later, the Civil Rights Act, share a very powerful connection with INROADS. And so it is important that I take some time tonight to put it into context, the very reason why we are here. We believe that all men are created equal, yet many are denied equal treatment. We believe that all men have certain inalienable rights. We believe that all men are entitled to the blessings of liberty, yet millions are being deprived of those blessings, not because of their own failures, but because of the color of their skin. The reasons are deeply embedded in history and tradition and the nature of man. We can understand without rancor or hatred how all this happens, but it cannot continue. Our Constitution, the foundation of our republic, forbids it. The principles of our freedom forbids it. Morality forbids it, and the law I signed tonight forbids it. President Lyndon B. Johnson uttered those words to the nation in a televised broadcast from the White House before signing the Civil Rights Bill into law on July 2nd, 1964. The 1964 Civil Rights Act was a landmark in legislative process to bring in about the change in attitudes and to improve the quality of life for African Americans and other underserved groups. Although civil rights had a long history as political and legislative issues, in the 1950s and the 1960s marked a period of intense activities by advocates in support of African American liberation. On December 5th, 1955, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. risen to national prominence at the initiation of the Montgomery bus boycott, a boycott that lasted 381 days and ended when the United States Supreme Court ordered Alabama to integrate its public transportation system and issued federal injunctions. In that moment, the young Georgia native emerged a national leader in civil rights movement. Martin's tactical approach appealed to the conscience of the people, an inner being of a humanity that could no longer sit idle and watch life, liberty, and happiness continue to be deferred for so many. The pinnacle of his prominence, however, was on August 28, 1963, when he led the March on Washington. John Meacham described Martin's disposition on that day in his piece published in the Time magazine's special edition on civil rights in America. He said, King was struggling with his speech that had been drafted by too many hands later that previous night at the Willard Hotel. One sentence he was about to deliver was particularly awkward. King was on the verge of letting the hours pass him by. Then, as on the Easter morning at the tomb of the crucified Jesus, there was the sound of a woman's voice. King had already begun to extemporize when Mahalia Jackson spoke up. "Tell him about the dream, Martin," said Jackson, who was standing nearby. King left his text altogether at this point, a departure that put him on the path to speaking words of American scripture, words as essential to a nation's destiny in their way as those of Abraham Lincoln, before whose memorial King stood, and those of Thomas Jefferson, whose monument lay to the preacher's right towards the Potomac. The moment of ensuing oratory lifted King's above the tumult of history and made him a figure of history, a new founding father. Frank C. Carr was there that day. As an executive in the publishing business, it is not difficult to conclude that Frank Carr had ready access to information about the civil rights movement, the major court's decision, the demonstrations, the public oration and discourse of Martin and others. The state of America at that time troubled his conviction. When a person begin to muse on a just cause, one that they feverishly believes in, it is a matter of time before they do an introspection to assess their sense of value and purpose. It is a matter of time before they themselves become moved by the where you are not judged by the color of your skin, but by the content of your character. Those very words resonated in the heart and soul of Frank Carr. He indeed believed that character was inherent in every human being and that there was never a deficit in an intellectual ability or desire, only a lack of opportunity for those underserved communities. And when given the right opportunity and access to business and industry, those very children in the boroughs and ghettos of America too could obtain the American dream. I am a witness of Frank Carr's mission. I grew up in very humble beginnings. My father died a great man when I was 9 years old. My mother was left to take care of 8 children on a hotel maid's salary. And so in 1992, when I was accepted into the INROADS organization, with United Technologies as my sponsoring company, that was an enormous accomplishment, not just for me, but for my entire family. But I will never forget the summer of 1993. During my prior year, I neglected to meet my routine obligations to INROADS, and thus was precluded from continuing my internship. After much pleading, I was afforded the opportunity of being reinstated under one condition, that I deliver a letter of apology to my INROADS advisor at his home by 9 p.m. that evening. By 8:45 p.m., I was at his door with my 2-letter page of apology that he actually never read. But for about half an hour, he talked and I listened. I am convinced that it was never about the letter in the first place. It was about the principle of what INROADS stand for. It was about the wisdom and experience of an advisor to look past the facade of a young intern and see the genuine potential for success and wanting to cultivate it. Cultivate that call to a deeper commitment to professionalism and community, while keeping the doors of opportunity open for other talented, underserved youth. In closing, I ask the ultimate question. So how far have we come 50 years removed since King's "I Have a Dream" speech? In some ways, we have indeed exceeded even what King could have imagined. Michelle Norris, one of the most trusted voices in American journalism, answered this very same question, and she stated, 50 years? 50 years after King delivered his speech, another black man stood at the Lincoln Memorial to address the masses, this time at the lectern embellished with the presidential seal. And the crowd assembled to hear Barack Obama included women, minority, and immigrants who had climbed a ladder of upward mobility that simply did not exist 50 decades ago. When you look at those two historic tent poles spanning half a century, the preacher and the president, it is clear that irrefutably aspects of King's dream have been realized. King's lawyer, Clarence Jones, who helped draft the March on Washington speech, said those who worked closely with King never contemplated the possibility of a black president in our lifetime. But as we measure progress since that day in August, are we using the right mile stick? America twice elected president who is black. That's one for the history books, but so too was the day that same president visited the White House briefing room to remind America that while the world rises up to meet him as a leader, as a black man, he might have had problems hailing a cab. Speaking of the not guilty verdict in the Trayvon Martin case, Obama said, I think it is important to recognize that African American community is looking at this issue through a set of experiences and a history that doesn't go away. With that sentiment, the distance between the preacher and the president was much like an image in an automobile side view mirror. Objects in the mirror are closer than they appear. What Frank C. Carr has started, and what you have continued to perpetuate, has indeed changed many lives. Only great companies can hear that clarion call, and many have stepped up to the challenge, creating fruitful and worthwhile experiences for INROADS interns, youth who are determined to make change and be productive contributors in themselves, their family, their community, and the world. And we must continue to support them, not because of what we can personally gain or to increase our bottom lines, but because it is simply the right thing to do. We must now join forces again to rethink, to begin to strategize how we can move beyond the initial objective of car movement, focus more on retaining and promoting diverse talent. We need a more unrelenting, steadfast, revolutionized approach, obviously tempered with true tolerance, that would break every chain and ceiling. And so tonight, I challenge each and every company to let's meet in the INROADS executive boardroom. The challenge is to concretely strategize what would it take to align the senior management, executive ranking of the top 500 companies to the true demographic of America. And then let's chart and outline the timeline necessary to see success. Earlier this month, President Obama was the guest of honor of a fundraiser gala celebrating the University of Southern California Shoah Foundation, which Steven Spielberg established 20 years ago to collect video testimony for survivors of the Holocaust and other genocides. The Associated Press noted that the video archives now includes more than 50,000 personal accounts and is available to schools across the globe. Yes, this is an amazing venture, an attempt at educating the world, and I commend Spielberg for doing so. But when asked about the foundation's mission, Spielberg stated, "As long as we fail to learn, our work will be urgent work. This institute exists because we know that the future can always be rewritten." When it comes to the INROADS mission, we must hold fast to and inculcate this very same sentiment. America will know success when INROADS is truly no longer necessary as an agent of diversity in corporate America. With that, I thank you very much for hearing and for giving me time before you this evening. My next assignment is to introduce a great man who's here this evening. And now, ladies and gentlemen, an extraordinary visionary and proven leader whom so many of us have come to know and admire in Forrest T. Harper. Forrest has been tirelessly dedicated to community health advocacy, leadership and talent pipeline development, organizational outreach. Prior to joining INROADS, Forrest began his career at Pfizer as a sales representative, eventually holding numerous leadership positions. Throughout his career, he has successfully designed and implemented new sales products and account strategies, led a number of major organizational initiatives, and achieved substantial business results. Forrest was also instrumental in spearheading community-based initiatives targeted to underinsured populations, and was the architect of multiple public-private partnerships and alliances involving over 25,000 community-based organizations. A trailblazer, that's right. Forrest served as the first president of the Pfizer African American Leadership Network and was a member of Pfizer Global Diversity and Inclusion Leadership Community. He also was responsible for launching multiple undergraduate internship programs with schools such as Florida A&M University, Morgan State University. Please join me in welcoming President and CEO of INROADS, Forrest T. Harper, Jr. But in actuality, before Forrest takes the podium, I would like to make a statement on behalf of United Technologies. United Technologies have had a long relationship with INROADS ever since back in 1986 with the first intern at Carrier Corporation. Ever since then, United Technologies have hired over 300 interns year over year. And we have accumulated over about 3,000 since our relationship began. With that, United Technologies have also started an alumni network with alumni of the INROADS intern process of over 300 of us. We meet on a regular basis in order to strategize how UTC can engage in retention and promotional opportunities for INROADS interns, but others alike. And so with that, INROADS have started something great with United Technologies that we would like to continue. And the best way to continue that effort is by donating to a cause that is worthwhile and fruitful. With that, we would like to give on behalf of United Technologies a check for $100,000 to the cause of the INROADS mission.
Curtis, don't go anywhere. Thank you very much. Curtis, what an outstanding gift you've given us tonight for a number of reasons. And I certainly want to thank you for not just that, but your passion and sharing your story. But I would just like to ask you to continue. I am not an INROADS alum, but I'd like you to follow me around as I do speeches so you can just be my voice, at least. All right? But you heard the story about him, and I had an occasion to meet him before, but I'm going to stick to the program, but I'm just beaming up here, not because of the 100,000, but because of a young man that we learned the story about who presented to our national board back in last September. He came to Birmingham, Alabama to present to our board. University of South Carolina senior to be graduated this year. And he told the story in Birmingham that he was literally there to make sure that the national board never forgets the mission. And when he told his story, he says, but listen, I got to get back. And Baron, you were there, and the rest of our national board members were there, Harlan and Jason and all. And he says, you know, the first walk I make in the morning is on the dirt road just to get to the hard top. And this is in 2013 in a small town in South Carolina. And then he said, but I got to leave tonight because I can catch a bus back to South Carolina so I can go and finish my finals for the rest of the year. I've never seen a board of directors move so fast to circle this young man, and they wrote him an airline ticket that day to get back home. And I want to tell you, Curtis, your speech tonight reminds us all of what this mission is all about. And all the award recipients tonight, it means a great deal. So keep those kinds of individuals coming, and these dollars help us ensure there's just a short distance between that dirt road and the blacktop for these kids to get to where they got to go. So sticking with the agenda, I really want to thank you and for allowing us to be able to do this, but I want to remind everybody that, as you know, ships do not sail themselves. They're captained to their destination by individuals of vision, foresight, direction, and perseverance. They all are guided through waters, sometimes choppy, sometimes not, but both rough and then sometimes of calm seas, by individuals who are strong, who persevere, and determined in a sense of leadership. With that in mind, there are two individuals tonight that we want to recognize and honor to two very special awards. But before we do that, I want to ask to join me up at the podium our Vice Chair of the National Board of Directors, Mr. Baron Witherspoon. So Baron, you want to come on up? And to help me present this award, what I want to be able to do is just let you know how proud we are to be here tonight. And it wouldn't be possible, and I can't remember who really said it. I think it was Lincoln or one of the other award recipients tonight. But we can't do it without a staff. And I got to tell you, I promise you that. It was Mort Stanfield out of Pittsburgh that helped me understand the importance of staff, and I've really embellished that. So tonight I'd like to just ask the staff to stand for a moment. If you're in the back, just stand up, and let's give them a big hand. Lathan and his team, these guys do a wonderful job. Thank you very much. We know that volunteerism doesn't pay a check, and we are not a publicly traded board. Nobody walks around with a check. These are all volunteer and busy executives that give their time, and many of them are alumni. And tonight there are a few here, and I want to just make sure we recognize.
our National Board of Directors, which is our Vice Chair, Baron Witherspoon, but also let me introduce Harlan Abraham. Some of you have mentioned already. Harlan is the Chair of our Finance Committee. Harlan, stand up. Also, Jason Booth. Jason Booth is an alum. He's the head of our Fund Development Department. He actually drove in from Minneapolis to be down here with us tonight. Let me just make sure I don't miss anybody else. But I also want to recognize the regional board here, that really where the rubber meets the ground. And I'd just like the regional board members, if you're here, please stand up. If you're part of the regional board, Lathan, I didn't see one person. Thank you very much. But I will say this, Baron comes to us, what we call with the passion of Procter & Gamble. Let me tell you, Cincinnati is very well represented, but he's a passionate individual, but he's VP of Global Operations and Strategic Revenue and Pricing with Procter & Gamble, and that was his role before, but he's now been elevated to Government Relations and Affairs, but he actually leads the trade group interest of Procter & Gamble. And we're talking about the global communities leader like Procter & Gamble. This is the guy that runs it. So I just want to thank him very much for being up with me to recognize these awards. Well, let me just say this very clearly and very succinctly. This is the first time the Founders Day Award, this award we're giving tonight, it's going to be elevated to a level where people will recognize what we mean by being dedicated. And in this Founders Day Award, literally, the former president and CEO of INROADS is most deserving. I recall when I first became the CEO of INROADS, so humbly, the sixth president and CEO of INROADS, it was Charles Story that said, you need to get on the road and go talk to every one of the CEOs on a listening tour. So I did exactly that. I said, I better listen to this, so I'll go ahead and get some information and feedback. And when I met this gentleman, I met him in Pittsburgh for the first time at a gathering of all staff. And I said, I want to come see you. He says, come on to St. Louis and see me. And when I went to see him, he said, basically, there's a couple things that you just need to be guided. You're going to have to rebuild INROADS, town by town, city by city. We've been hit hard with the economy. He said, but it's going to be all right. We're here to help you. He says, and the other thing I want you to do, I'm going to send a man to you, and he's going to give you some advice. And I just want you to lean on that advice, and you're going to be okay. Little did I know, a year later, a pastor showed up at my door to pray for me. And I called Reggie and I said, you sure this is who you're sending to me? He said, yeah, you're going to need prayer. And I thank him for that, because to this day, that person has become a good friend, and over the last year or so, and I really appreciate it, Reginald, for the advice and the prayer, everything else. But I just want to say this, that he's really ensured the smooth sailing of INROADS during a time in those days where the challenges were there. We were trying to crack the code in corporate America. It's been said so well and stated. And more importantly, not only did he do that, there's so much that was happening at the time that when we looked at things through this one lens called leadership, it took courage to be there during the time frame that he's been there with it. So tonight, if I can't do anything else, I want to obey the lessons that my mother said. She says there's only 2 times your name's going to be called out loud in public. One for graduation, and then one to come eat. But tonight, and I pay attention to both of those, but tonight, I want to call out this name very proudly and humbly, because without him, all of this would not be possible. And we just want to take him and embrace him and say congratulations on our Founders Day Award tonight, Mr. Reginald Dixon.
She taught me well. Thank you very much.
Comments,
I ain't ate yet. First of all, I want to say thanks to a very dear friend of mine. I know he's watching over me, and that's Frank C. Carr. He was a father, a mentor, and a friend. So Frank, all of this is for you, my friend. And the other thing that I want to do is say thanks to my kids that received awards. Even though you're turning 60, you're still, and always will be, my kids. And I thank you very much. And one last thing, I want to give recognition to my first hire in INROADS, and that's a fellow named Hardy Dorsey, Hardy K. Dorsey. Hardy, would you stand up, please? From Atlanta. And over the years, we've become fast and very good friends, and I want to thank you for being here, Hardy. And again, I want to thank everyone for all that you do for INROADS. It's truly a mission, and it's truly something's very, very special to all of us, something with a purpose that we all can be proud of. Thank you.
About 3 years ago, when I received the role as CEO, the first office I came to was St. Louis. And I was here to meet the staff. And before I knew it, the day was gone, and it was very dark outside. And I remember one thing, I didn't even have a key to the building, so I couldn't lock it up. But as I got ready to leave the office, I turned to turn the light off in the hallway, and there were 3 photographs of past CEOs. And there was Mr. Carr, there was Charles Story, there was Mr. Dixon on the wall. And as I got ready to turn the light off, I turned around and said, wow, you got to get this right. There's some legends on this wall. As I got ready to turn the light off, there's one more picture. And it's a picture of Martin Luther King Jr., but there's an inscription on the bottom corner. And it says, congratulations to INROADS for keeping the dream alive. And it was from Coretta Scott King. And so I take this seriously when I talk about this award, Reggie, and you should know, I appreciate the opportunity to be in the humble space that you've already filled. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. You see, when we talk about dreamers, that's what we're all about. Just like Dr. King, we dream of a world that changes, and we dream of the world that judges us not by the color of our skin, but by the content of our character. We dream of providing opportunities to youth, and youth based on the things that define the content of one's character. You see, talent, drive, initiative, intellect, and a sense of leadership. We dream of fulfilling their dreams. Tonight we honor the people and the organizations that the enterprise tells us that's important, that are always instrumental in making things happen. So the Enterprise Award tonight is presented to corporate partners that have exhibited commitment to a diverse talent pipeline and have demonstrated consistent support of the INROADS mission. Ameren has been a longtime partner to INROADS with our humble beginnings and donated office space in 1973. You heard the Chief Financial Officer talk so eloquently last night, and he read every word so meaningfully. He could have just breezed through it, but he took his time, and we greatly appreciate that. And with this award, it's about holding true to Carr's vision. INROADS is proud to present this award, this Enterprise Award, to a corporation that has maintained their commitment. You see, when the downturn of the economy came, companies still kept interns going. They might not have been at the same volume, but they kept their commitment. As I stood here tonight and was introduced to Stephen for the first time from Ameren, I now know why the commitment is still there. He talked about, we got to take it to the next level, Forrest. So there's no doubt, I'd never met this gentleman before, but tonight I want to thank you for that commitment in advance, because that's what we're supposed to do. But I want to make sure you know that without Ameren and the other kinds of companies here in St. Louis, we wouldn't be here without it. The mission goes on. So I'm going to congratulate the Enterprise Award tonight, and congratulations to Ameren. Come up, Stephen.
Good evening. I'm Steve Parks, Director of Diversity for Ameren. And tonight I stand here and I represent Ameren, but I can't help but represent myself as well. I have a deep passion for youth, and it's something that's just been part of me. And to hear what INROADS has done with the youth, you know, you want youth to be able to benefit from organizations like this, and you want them to have that positive result. So that passion in you, it really suffers when you see kids miss out on it. But what we're seeing here are kids who had the opportunity, who are now adults who've lived through it. So what that does to my heart is hard to put into words. And I also think that when you're in an organization like this, sometimes there are a lot of people here who've experienced it and heard it and seen it, so they know what's going on. But sometimes you need to hear from the people who didn't go through the program. So I'm going to be that person tonight. I didn't go through it. And if you think about some things that we do, I've worked on a lot of cars over time, and especially when I had 4 teenagers driving their cars, you learn to fix a car because you're not going to pay all that. But when you first change in a flat, if you jack the car up all the way, and you put that wrench on it and turn, and the whole wheel spins around, and then you let it back down, and it's your first time, so you take all the nuts off, and your friend's leaning on the car on the other side, so it leans over and the whole wheel comes off. It takes to change that one tire is longer than an experienced person would take to change all 4 of them and drive off. And but the thing about it is that person who decided to change that tire, he's still going to get that tire changed. It just took him 2 days, but he's going to get, well, that's how I went through college. That is how I got through. It took me twice as long. I did everything wrong. Fortunately, there was a fraternity there, and one of the founders was sitting here earlier, Wayne C. Harvey. That got me through school. But when I got to the workplace, it was a different car, and I was still changing tires wrong, and now I'm in a position where I'm trying to bring young people into this company, and I'm sure you hear all the time, they've got education, but they can't do what we need them to do. They're not prepared for our workplace. So we've got talented people over here who go out and try to get diverse talent, try to get all of our talent. And they get good people a lot of the time, but some of the times the people they get just are not ready. They're just not ready. And what I found is that when they come from INROADS, there's never, not sometimes, there's never a time that these people are not ready for us. So that overwhelms me. And it amazes me that, this group of people come to me and say, wow, thank you for hosting us. Thank you. And really, the thank you should come from us. Because this group of people in this room, I think each one of you could come up here and receive an award for something that you've done. We got a room full of people who I admire and have admired from a distance for a while. And now I get to invite them to my house, and you're thanking me? It shouldn't be that way. I thank you for what you're doing for our youth, and I thank you that you're making them available for the company that I represent, and I am committed that we are going to do better than we've done in including them in our workforce. We've got an aging workforce, and when finances get better, a whole bunch of them are going to leave on the same day. So there's one thing about the utility industry is that, you know, time in is required to learn a lot of the stuff that we do. Is very technical, and then each power plant, a person from one power plant can't necessarily do the stuff of the other one because they all have their own temperaments. So we need to get people in here to start learning stuff soon. And they need to be prepared when we go and get them. We don't have the time and resources to get them ready. And we're finding out that when they come from this organization, that they are ready. So with this, I thank you for what you have done for us. And I thank you for what you're doing now for us. And I thank you for what you're going to do for us. It is an honor and a privilege to have you in our house. So from Ameren, I just say thank you and good night.
Well, good evening once again. Good evening. Some have already taken a break from the event, and they're somewhere else in their minds, but we invite you all back to the discussion. Good evening. Good evening. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It is a privilege to stand at this portion of our event tonight. It's been a wonderful event. And I have two short tasks. And so I'd like to do those speedily, which I'm sure everyone will appreciate. The first task is to say thank you. And of course, folks have been saying thank you all evening, and it's a great night of Thanksgiving and gracious spirits here tonight. But I want to thank you, Stephen, for your kind remarks about INROADS, but more importantly, your passion as a leader at Ameren, and for all you and your company have done to help us in this critically important market. I want to thank you for underwriting tonight's event, but also for hosting us in your house, a beautiful house, I must say. I want to say tonight that I extend my thanks and my appreciation to everyone who has received an award of any type tonight. Your legacy as award recipients is now obvious to all of us, and maybe it was not obvious before we began. But we're proud of every one of you and for what you have done on behalf of the organization. We're proud of the Legacy Award recipients as they really exemplify the INROADS mission as community leaders in the here and now. And we are humbled by the Visionary Award recipients because of the difference that their collective leadership has made in this important community. And so I want to say to all of you, thank you, and ask the audience to give another round of applause for our award recipients. Now that wasn't too painful, and I've already completed the first task. So on to the second task. And you know, I was thinking about this task, and this is the point in the night when everyone should be getting very excited. Sometimes, though, we don't get as excited as we should. So I'm going to invite you to get very excited about this next task. And this is the task where we give you an opportunity to give back to INROADS for all that you have heard about this evening. And I'm reminded tonight, I didn't want to rehash what people had said, but two numbers stuck in my mind this evening. One is presented before you, $100,000 received by UTC. But the other was $1.10 an hour, which we heard Darrell T. Jones mention in his acceptance speech. What I want to encourage you to do is to contribute at a level that's comfortable for you. And I would imagine that it'll be somewhere between $1.10 an hour and $100,000. Having said this, I'm certain that we all could agree that a gift in any amount will help us to do the important work that you have heard about tonight, will help us to sustain the effort. But I do want to encourage us with one fact, and that is that a gift of $50 could purchase a training manual to improve a candidate's resume or their writing skills, something practical that could really help them. So that's the what. I want you to consider expressing your appreciation for what you've heard tonight with a gift in that range that I described. But I also want to tell you the how. And the how is the small white envelope that you found in your program tonight. I would just ask everyone to find that envelope, locate your personal envelope, and just hold it up to let me know that you have found yours. Because there would be some, I would be remiss if some would leave never having found their envelope. And so I want to make sure we're all on the same page. Everyone, is there anyone without an envelope? Would you be recognized at this time? Well, hearing none, the vote is on the motion to give. I want to encourage you, though, seriously, to take this opportunity to open the envelope. You'll notice on the inside flap, we can collect that information. You can give by check. You can even use a credit card if you didn't come prepared with a check. You can use a credit card, leave us your information. I've done that. I filled my information out to make my contribution. So I want to lead by example. As we do that this evening, it will help us a tremendous amount. We welcome your generosity. I just want to thank you so much on behalf of the Board of Directors for joining us tonight in celebration of this third annual Founders Day event. And I give the podium back to my colleague and dear friend, Forrest Harper.
Thank you very much. Just a few more people to thank. Our leader, our chair of our board, is traveling internationally in Germany, but he wanted me to make certain that you know Jeffrey Perry, who is an executive with EY, basically is traveling in Europe, Germany to be very specific, but he is the first alumni to chair the national board. And what a legacy that Frank Carr would also be looking down upon us, as Reggie has said. And he sends his best to all of us. I also have in the room with us, as I want to thank you, B.J. Williams. I didn't see you when you came in, but I just want to ask B.J. to stand up. B.J. is with he's an alum. He's with the IAA, which is our alumni association across the country and over the ocean, which they have really reconnected across the country on a whole focus on redevelopment of our alumni, and they are on their way. Matter of fact, in Chicago, I think on the 11th and 12th of June, they are doing a recharge meeting. The alumni are recharging across the country, organizing in 12 regions. So we want you to know that we're vibrant, we're relevant, and we're on our way. And Lakeisha, I just want to tell you how much you touched me tonight, simply because for all the support you've been giving over the last several years, Target is a standout sponsor, and I know we got a Target team here tonight, because when we got ready to revitalize and go where we were going in our direction with new programming, Target helped actually establish the first funding with our Rising Senior program. So because of that program, literally that young lady is one of the first products to come out and be made a full-time offer with just one summer, proving we can still really put innovation into even what we're doing. Now Rising Senior, our model of Rising Senior is one of the programs that we do, is across the country. The retailers are out there just trying to get out there and copy out the Target, but that's all right. We like competition because it means growth for us. So I want to thank Target tonight for being here and supporting us. Last but not least, I do want to thank, and a special thanks to Urban Strategies, BJC, Ameren, for helping us make this such a wonderful evening. And before I say goodnight to you and ask you to join us outside for some more refreshments, I'd like to leave you with what purpose that we all have for tonight, but especially me as a personal one for myself. I heard it from someone who I adopted as a mentor at an awards dinner, and I want to certainly duly give him credit. The great consultant, Reginald Van Lee, literally moved me one night at an awards dinner in New York City, when he said he had met a man in his life, and this man in his life was in his 90s. And he asked the man what we all typically ask: what's the secret of living so long in his life? And the gentleman went on to explain to Reggie that, I didn't want to leave this earth without being able to answer 3 questions. The first question was where I'm from, because I want to be proud of the town I'm from and the heritage I've come from. And where I was born is a very important one because it gives a sense of pride to where I'm from. The second question that he wanted to be able to answer before he left was not only where I'm from, but what time period was I born? Why did my parents decide that I would be here? He says, but the most important question that he wanted to be able to answer, and he didn't answer until the maturity of his life, was why am I here? And I found it in INROADS. I'm here, Forrest Harper, for INROADS. And I want to thank you for giving me that privilege. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for attending the 3rd Annual National Founders Day event. We would ask, however, that in the words of our infamous Vice Chair, if you have an envelope that you deposited with me, the Chief Development Officer at INROADS, please join us for refreshments, cocktails, and to congratulate all of our recipients. Dessert is served. Yes, we love you all. Thank you all. Thank you. Richard, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Today. It was crazy, but you managed to just sort of shepherd through.
With your help.
Oh, thank you so much. Hey, listen, turn around on photograph.